There we go. Hello, my pixies and any other watchers of Bookcraft. I have gone live on my own because I need to mute that. Why do I always forget to do that? I am waiting for Lisa and Karen to show up still. But I tell you guys will be here at 7, so I wanted to at least be here at 7 so that you guys could, anybody watching, know where to find us. Tonight, as long as I have Elisa. There's Elisa.
Maybe. We'll see.
I started it on YouTube already because
I'm late. I know.
Past 7. You're late. Karen's later.
Yeah. We'll see. She should be here today, so.
Okay.
Stay.
Well, and then I'm like, you're like pointing right at me. I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be working on my computer tonight. So I have everything set up on the other screen. So while I'm working, I will be looking at the camera, but if I look over at you, I will not be looking at the camera. So if it looks weird, that's why.
All right.
So what are you working on tonight?
I honestly haven't even found something to work on.
How very dare you?
How very dare I?
We have a Karen. Whoops, that's not what I was looking for. It's a Karen. Welcome. Yeah, we were just saying, well, I was gonna say what I'm working on tonight. I've been saying for the past several days on my various social medias and things that I will have stuff listed on the website, but every time I tried to get stuff listed on the website, one thing or another has come up. In some cases, life stuff has come up. In other cases, internet issues have come up. And so I'm going to be working on doing that while we're talking so that by the end, theoretically, hopefully, please God, there will actually be some listings on my website. But that does mean that I'll be typing and talking at the same time, so that should get interesting.
Well, I literally skimmed half of the last chapter. So, but oh my goodness, what happened? Oh my goodness.
Right? I know, I told you these were good chapters.
This is...
I feel like there's a little bit of a time skip between chapter 7 and 8, but
yeah. You mean between 6 and 7?
No, 7 and 8.
7 and 8. Because 7, she's in school, and then in 8, she was sick. So.
Right. Okay. Oh, right. Sorry. Yep. I was mixing up stories.
I'm sure there's
separating
a
one.
6 and 7 too, but like.
I think it's a bit of a time jump partly because they there was no need to describe Joe being mad the whole time. Just time has passed and Joe's still mad.
Yeah.
So what are you working on tonight before we go too far into the book?
Well, I just found a quick project in progress. I'm going to work on that. I need my dinner.
I'm going to finish the remake of the Gryffindor bracelet I've been working on.
Nice.
Because I bought seed beads specifically for it instead of just the ones I had. And then I'm going to try another attempt at remaking these without wire.
I like those.
They're nice, but they're made with wire, and I don't like that. So
yeah,
I'm trying to remake them with string, and it's not coming out so well.
I'm gonna see if I can manage to stop yawning anytime now.
Good luck.
Don't count on it. Um, yeah, words. Words are hard. They may want to do a quick
So
overview of what was in chapter 7 and 8 before we go into them in detail.
Just Amy wanting to, like, I honestly was not a fan of Amy in either one of these stories.
she is a young child. She's the youngest child, remember?
I know, but still, it's like,
I would compare her to Sophie, like as a little child. Keep
yeah.
comparing.
So in the first one, she's at school, she's trying to fit in, she gets in trouble. And then the second one is Christmas, right?
No, it's
No, it's not Christmas. It's
No, Christmas was at the beginning of the book.
right. Sorry, it's not, I don't know why I
It's,
thought the episode was Christmas.
they go ice skating.
It's toward the end of winter.
So it's like
'cause
March or April. Yeah.
Yeah, the water that they're ice skating on is
It's very
starting to
thin.
thaw.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought it was Christmas. I don't know
So
why.
it's
It might have been
February,
the
early
17th
March,
since I
something like
read
that.
it. So
Oh my gosh. Oy. Okay. Yeah, I will say I have never been a special fan of Amy.
she just seems like she's got youngest child syndrome, like really bad.
See, there's youngest child syndrome, and then there's like you're just being a brat. Like, I don't care how upset you get about something. Like,
Yeah, I was very upset with Amy.
that
and
that
Chelsea.
level of destruction of somebody else's property
Oh, I about cried.
should definitely, in my opinion, warrant much more severity than what she gets.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah.
not saying like
I think Karma played a little justice there. I must say, Karma played a little justice.
yeah.
So back to chronological order. Let's go to chapter 7.
You're right.
So chapter 7, the hip cool thing in school is sucking on lemons, which is the weirdest thing.
Limes. They're not lemons. They're pickled
Lime.
limes.
Pickled limes.
Pickles lime.
And so she asked her sister if she can buy some. And at that point, it makes me, like, the next few sentences make me realize that she knew it was a thing that she would get in trouble for having at school, and she still did it anyway.
Yep.
Like, she knew, she's like, oh, I want limes. I owe people these limes. She didn't know anybody a lime, I guarantee you.
Not
She probably did, because she'd been
mentions it, but, like,
borrowing them from people and whatever.
Or
But she,
giving free ones, and it was her turn to give people one. Like,
yeah.
uh,
So in that sense, she did, but I think she did. I do. I just think
you're just trying to fit in.
yeah.
Just trying to fit in.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I don't know. Trying to fit in has this connotation to me of somebody who doesn't fit in, and she does. She's like one of the popular kids already.
mhm.
She plays like she's rich enough to be one of the popular kids, and she's not, but she's pretty much got them all convinced of it. I mean, there's a reason her mom says like those girls probably aren't the ones you should be hanging out with anyway, because she just is one of the in crowd essentially.
Yeah.
But you know, whether 18 whatever or 2022, the in crowd tends to be way too easy to fall out of. So that's what she's trying to avoid, is not being in the in crowd anymore.
Yeah.
Especially
I
because
just-
she's like lied her way through a good chunk.
Yeah. That's what I didn't like, was that she was like, I need these limes. I owe these people these limes. And Beth just gives her the money. And then she's like, goes to buy the limes, and
Beth?
knowing she's not supposed
No,
to
Meg
have
gave
them.
her.
Yeah,
Did Beth
Meg
give
gave
her
her the limes.
I was
Who?
gonna say,
Meg?
didn't-
It
Meg
might have been
gave-
Meg. All right. Sorry, wrong name.
But at any rate,
Again,
yeah.
It's been
They're
2
they're
weeks.
they're pushovers for her, which is a big part of the issues that why she is the way that she is in a lot of points there. She's trying to be so fancy and whatever, but the fact that they're such pushovers for her doesn't help that in the slightest.
What bothered me after that next was, I had a lot of problems with these chapters and the way that Amy was like, just got away with things.
Yeah.
She did get in trouble with the teacher, and she got a few raps with a ruler. This is not an uncommon known punishment in schools. Like, this used to be a common punishment.
Right.
And so what bothers me is the fact that her mom literally pulls her out of school for this.
That doesn't bother me.
Okay, no, you gotta understand that there's probably different levels of schooling. And back then, the wrapping on the wrist was the lowest form of schooling, and probably not what's the school that they were belonging to.
It was a known thing. But that doesn't, I mean, this was written by somebody of the day. Not everybody accepted it. It's like, if it was somebody like today looking back and going, like changing it for that purpose, that'd be different. But this was written by somebody of the day. Who, like, if it was just something that everybody was okay with, then it wouldn't have even been a thing she would have written in the book, because why would anybody be upset about that?
I
Not
think-
everybody was okay with it.
I think it just hits home for me because, raising my niece, we had so many contradictions on punishments, how she should be raised, and like punishments that I saw or other people saw as decent, other people saw as too harsh, when it eventually became that those became necessary punishments that we had to do to help her learn and grow and whatever. But so for it to be like a common practice, and for her mother to be like, oh no, I don't want you going to that school again. It's like, I feel like her mother was over dramatic about it and almost too pacifist almost. And I mean, I'm not big on punishment myself, but the way she's just like, oh no, you can't have any of this. Like, no one's ever going to hurt her emotionally. People get hurt, and I don't think that babying someone is helpful to their mindset or their health.
I agree, but I don't.
You agree, but not on my level.
I agree, but I don't agree that, like, corporal punishment like that is reasonable. And there's a difference between, somebody hurt her feelings and he physically, like, hurt her hands, or like a difference between, making somebody understand what they've done wrong versus like holding them up for ridicule. That's not punishment at that point. That's bullying. He is essentially bullying. And he wasn't. I mean,
I think he did take
different
lighter
people
on
had
her, 'cause
what?
I think it seemed to imply that like she was a favorite. So I think he did take it a little lighter on her than he would have like maybe one of the other students. So his tasks were probably lighter, and the ridicule is basically like sticking someone in a corner with a dunce cap. Well, she just had to stand in front of the whole class.
I don't think he did take it lighter on her, because he was about to, and then I can't remember which thing happened, but
Somebody made a sound. I forget what the sound was.
um anyway, I just think that I think that the point of it from a literary perspective, the point of it in there is because they are from a pacifist family. That's one of the things of their family. They're from a family that that won't. I can't remember all of them. There are things like I think they were like not using sugar or wearing cotton because they were trying to stop slavery. There are a few different things, and they haven't talked about a ton of it in this so far, I don't think, but I can't remember because my brain meshes details together. But anyway, a lot of where that came from, the pacifist family type thing, is because Louisa May Alcott grew up in that sort of a family, one that was more pacifist than a lot of the people around them. So, and in a lot of ways, in a lot of things that she said, she modeled Marmee after her own mother. So I do think that she was drawing on her own life experience from this. But I also think that it's possibly bothering you, drawing on your own life experience. And yeah, I think Amy is way too,
I mean,
maybe
she
way
was
too much
coming
allowed
out
to get away
home
with
and they
things.
babied her hands, they bandaged her hands, they like
Okay,
over
well, her hands are
dramatized it.
damaged. Bandage the hands. That's
It feels like it was over dramatized.
Yeah, I
Like,
got
oh,
that
poor
feel as
Amy.
well. Like
Karen,
everyone was,
what'd you
oh,
say?
poor baby. I got that same feel as well. That everybody was just like, oh, poor baby, because even in the book it says it was lightly tapped. Like,
Yeah.
so there was no need to bandage them. I don't think. I think it was more for the mental comfort than the physical, because I don't think she really needed her hands bandaged.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can see that. But at the same time, I'm very, very much with them on the, like, don't be hitting her in the first place. Like, just, it's not okay in the first place. And even if,
No, I'm with you there too. Like, it's not okay to hit someone else's kids even for discipline in school. And that kind of thing should be left up to the parents' discretion. Not that you should really be hitting your kids, but like,
anyway, I think that there's a balance there to a degree. Like, they were, I don't think they were overprotective. How do I say this? They were overly forgiving of what she had done because of what he did, and he was not right for how he treated her, but the fact that they just brushed off so much of what she had done in the first place isn't going to help her learn anything from it, other than, you know, if somebody punishes me for something, then
yeah,
I don't have to worry about her, essentially.
I feel like we are glossing over the true villain of this little chapter, and that is Jenny Snow, because she
Yes.
got not only got Amy in trouble, she took away the entire class's little training thing with the lemons. Like they're no longer
Limes.
the limes. They're no longer. It's like, so she just got the whole class mad at her now. Little Jenny Snow, the true villain.
Oh, and
I
kids
mean-
are cool, so I'm sure she'd get, karma for that later.
Yeah.
Um,
She was also being a brat, but also they were doing something they weren't supposed to be doing, and it's a stupid little thing that, like, if it was like he made this rule because they were, hurting others with it, but he made this rule because they were disrupting class with it, but he made this rule because he didn't want them doing it. And that's stupid, but at the same time, they were still breaking the rules. Anyway,
that's really all chapter 7 was about,
Yeah,
really.
pretty
was
much.
just-
I do like, I want to say, I do like at the end, as they're talking about, like, you don't have to be conceited or showing off all of your accomplishments, and trying to, like, get that through to Amy. And then Marmee says, these things are always seen and felt in a person's manner and conversation, if modestly used, but it is not necessary to display them. And Joe says, any more than it's proper to wear all your bonnets and gowns and ribbons at once, that folks may know you've got them.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
I love that comparison.
I really like Joe. I like Joe a lot.
I
Yeah.
like things about all of them, but I dislike things about all of them too. And I think that that's a big part of what I like about Little Women, because I don't have to see any of them as somebody to venerate or anything. They're all human. They all make mistakes too. They've all got flaws as well as virtues.
They're human characters.
Yeah. Which just makes me think of my own siblings. And having grown up with the same number of girls in my family, add in one boy, which could very well be Lori if you take out any weirdness that would imply, then, like, that's my family. All right, chapter 8, Joe meets Apollyon, which could just as easily be titled when an unbreakable force meets an immovable object, or an unstoppable force, whatever that expression is. Anyway, Joe and Amy are
At odds the whole chapter.
they really go head to head.
I feel Joe not wanting to have to cart around her baby sister, because there's
Yeah.
quite a few years between them. There's
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 years between
And
them.
she's been sick.
And she's been sick. So she doesn't have to cart around her sick baby sister while she's going hang out with her older sister and her friend. You know?
And Amy's just all me, 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 me.
As most sick babies are.
Again, she's 12. Like,
I said sick baby. I said sick baby.
I know, but just so much about her 12-year-oldness seems like an 8-year-old.
I know.
I
And
keep
I'm
thinking
just-
of my 10-year-old niece, man. I just keep... Well,
Even my 10-year-old is not like this. Ay,
Yeah, so Amy decides to get back at the fact that they won't let her go to the theater, so I'm assuming it's a play. With them. I'm not sure if movies were a thing at this time or not.
no, play.
No, it would have been a play.
And so she gets her back by destroying the book her father gave her. Joe's book that their father gave her.
No,
No, it's her book.
no,
of her
it was the book
stories,
that
the one
of
she's
her own
writing.
writing that she was writing for their father.
It's like I took your
was
stories and
her
ripped them
own
in front of
writing.
your face, like your
That's even worse.
stories.
I felt like Joe, like, don't touch my books, but like one that she was actually. Oh no, I even more understand.
Oh,
Yeah,
my writer heart breaks in so many pieces, and I don't care if I'm reading it or if I'm watching a movie version of it or what. Every time I'm just like, how did she not get in more trouble for this?
Like, because honestly, like, there is nothing in the world that deserves you destroying something that precious. And you can't tell me that Amy didn't know it wasn't precious. Like,
she knew exactly how precious it was.
She knew.
She knew how precious it was to Joe, and she definitely wanted to hurt Joe from it. But I don't think that she had anything at the time that she did. She didn't like make things as much as the other girls. She didn't like have that sort of thing that she poured her heart and soul into. I'll say, I can't even remember if this is in the book or not, and it's not really much of a spoiler regardless. But I know that at least in the movie she does take up painting later in life. But even then, she doesn't have that same draw to something, that intensity of draw to something that Joe has. If she does, it's simply a draw to be liked. Like, she wants to be popular. That's what she wants. Joe has this need to write. And so even though she knows how precious this is to Joe, I don't think she understands how much this is like, you're not just destroying something that she cares about. It's like you're destroying a piece of her. She poured herself out onto those pages. There's no other copy anywhere. There's no way that this is coming back ever. And I don't think that Amy was of a place or of a mindset to be able to fully comprehend that.
I don't think she knew the repercussions, but she knew she was destroying something that was absolutely priceless.
Yes,
I
would not be able to, like, if somebody destroyed my stuff, I would not be able to remember all of my notes. I would not be able to recreate that, no matter how hard I tried.
Right.
And she'd already rewritten these, so they were nicely written and edited and looked beautiful. And it was almost like the final copy. And she destroyed the others. And it was
the thing that really gets me with that, like, she wanted to lash out and hurt Joe, but they all at 7:30, they all want to do things for their parents. And she knows that Joe is compiling this, hoping to have it done for their father when he comes home. And the fact that she didn't, and I don't know, maybe she just wasn't thinking of that part. I was just thinking this will hurt Joe.
That Amy really doesn't think ahead. She doesn't think of consequences.
No.
Like, she just acts impulsively quite often.
Again, she is 12.
She's 12, though. Like, I mean, I learned actions and consequences long before 12.
I did not.
She does have her older sisters, the way that they all think, she pretty much has 4 mothers, because she has a very present mother. Actually, kind of 5 with their servant who's always there for all of them and everything. And
yeah,
like she's like the babiest baby who ever was babied, and drives me nuts. I am so glad my baby sister was not like this.
As the baby of the family. She drives me nuts, and I am the baby.
At least it's the baby.
I
The
know.
4.5 minutes do count.
What?
The 4.5 minutes do count.
Yep.
She's never
Yeah.
let me forget.
Because
Never.
with those 4.5 minutes, you were technically an adult for 4.5 minutes before she was when you guys turned 18.
That and the
So I
entire
mean,
time I was the baby of the family. Like I wasn't even the baby.
yeah.
So she
I
destroys
get
the book. And then I'm assuming it's a couple weeks later that they decide to go ice skating.
I'm gonna say
Yeah.
probably more like a few days. I think I feel like it was more like a few days. But Joe was still not talking to her, still not even acknowledging her presence, which I can't blame Joe. Like, I mean, that was like a piece of
she's
Joe
hurt.
died.
honestly,
You know?
if that was me, if I was, and I am not one to get super angry with people, and if that was me, I probably wouldn't have been talking to her, not because I was trying to give her the silent treatment, but because if I did, I would have exploded at her.
Yeah, it took a lot for Joe to not say anything, I think, if I remember correctly. Like for her to even get to the point where she decided not to say anything was hard for Joe. Like, it really hurt Joe.
I'm trying to see if there's any indication of how much. I think it might have been. Actually, it might have just been the next day or 2 days later.
Yeah, I don't think it was more than a couple of days, honestly.
It almost sounds like it was just the next day. They go to bed, and then it says Amy was much offended that her overtures of peace had been repulsed, and began to wish that she had not humbled herself, to feel more injured than ever, and to plume herself on her superior virtue in a way which was particularly exasperating. Joe still looked like a thundercloud, and nothing went well all day. It was bitter cold in the morning. She dropped her precious turnover in the gutter. Aunt March had an attack of fidgets. Meg was pensive. Beth Wood looked grieved and wistful when she got home, and Amy kept making remarks about people who were always talking about being good and yet wouldn't try when other people set them a virtuous example. Everybody is so hateful. I'll ask Laurie to go skating. He's always kind and jolly and will put me to rights, I know, said Jo to herself, and off she went. So I think it's really just the next day.
Yeah, but honestly, my anger towards Amy aside, when they go ice skating, I do think it is a very like real moment for Joe. Like not that Joe doesn't deal with real life very often, you know. I mean, she does, but like when her sister falls through the ice, that shattering of, I could have prevented that. Why did I let my anger get to me? It's so human, because she's like, at the moment, she's like, what harm would it do for me to not tell my sister this? You know, she'll follow by example anyway. Like, she just didn't think about it because she was still upset with her sister. And then to almost have her sister drown, it's like that moment of like, this could have been prevented. This could have been worse. Like, I could have done something.
And not just drown. I mean, falling in ice water, there's so much, like she could drown, she could
Hypothermia.
Yeah, go hypothermic, she could like she could still like get sick and be in danger later. Especially at that time.
And even after she was home and dry and warm, she's like, if she dies, it'll be my fault. Like,
yeah. And I kind of shows like a lot of sisterly love there. Like, no matter how upset you get with your sisters, no matter how frustrating they can be, you really don't want anything to happen to them. Like they're your family, they're your rock. Well, even though she was mad at her sister, like she didn't want anything to happen to her sister. She just didn't want to talk to her sister for a while, you know? Like, I don't know. I feel for Joe, and I feel Joe's emotions in that very strongly, just reading it.
I mean, yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
it's not like the reader, wished anything bad on Amy either.
Right.
Like
No, I agree. I also think, like, Laurie warns Joe to keep near the shore. It isn't safe in the middle. She didn't know whether Amy had heard or not.
Yeah.
Um,
Amy had been too busy putting on her shoes to hear. So she probably assumed her sister heard.
right. And it was just
also that
like a
question,
minute, like she was almost still debating within herself. Like she wasn't just like, good, let her fall. She was like, do I tell her? Let her watch out for herself.
I'm not saying she wished her sister to fall through the ice.
Right. No, I'm not saying that you're saying that. I'm saying, like, even beyond just that she wasn't trying to wish her harm or anything. Like, she was blaming herself, I think, understandably, but more than was really on her. But I also, even though she knew that they needed to be careful, I don't think that they really thought that something would happen. That sort of invincibility that anybody can have, but especially when you're young, or especially if you've never encountered a major tragedy, and you have that sense of like, that's just isn't going to happen. I think I told you to, but for anybody watching, and you two were around for a lot of, in the area, when this happened, but for anybody watching who doesn't know, we had a building explode in our town a few years ago, and my now 10-year-old was 7.
Almost 7.
No, I think he was 7, because his birthday's in March and it was 2019.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry. I mixed up your kids' birthdays.
So yeah, I think until that time, he's always been a worrier, and part of it's that ADHD brain. It's very easy to be anxious with ADHD because you have so many thoughts running at once that the anxious ones can keep coming up along with all the positive ones. It's great. And so he's always been easily concerned about things like that, but it had never actually happened within his life. And he was very aware of this building having blown up because they were supposed to go to the local fair with his school that day, and it had to be shut down because the building was right around the corner from the fair. And for months after that, he would keep processing this by looking at buildings around town and talking through what would happen if that building blew up. If the place we got ice cream blew up, we couldn't go to McDonald's either because it's across the street. Or if, our house blew up, then our neighbors' houses would be affected too. And he was making these connections and processing and kind of, making mental plans. He wasn't like stressing out about it, and he wasn't, being deliberately morbid. He was just processing all of it and coming to this understanding that these things can actually happen. And of course, he was 7. He didn't understand that building had an industrial propane tank that blew up. Our house does not have a propane tank. That's not any sort of fuel that we have at our house. But that's not gonna compute to him, but he was making that connection that bad things happen that he hadn't experienced or witnessed personally. And I think that this is a lot like that. They know bad things happen. They worry about their father. He's away at war. He's, it's the Civil War. Like, bad things are happening, but their father is still okay. And they're aware on one level that these things happen, but it hasn't touched them personally. And so I think that Jo was like, well, maybe she heard, maybe she didn't. Well, if she didn't, maybe she'll get a scare out of it. Maybe she'll get her feet wet or something. But the idea of her actually falling through the ice, I don't think was even in Jo's mind.
No.
I do think that even though she was mad, she's still worried about her sister. That's why she looked back at the last second.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. I love that Laurie springs to action and Jo is just frozen in place, because I feel like a lot of TV shows, movies, books, they seem to portray things one way or the other. Either a thing happens and you just spring into action and you know what to do, or like everything slows down around you, or like something happens and you just freeze and you don't know what to do. And it's not always either of those. Different people have different reactions by how their minds work, and as well as by training, by how close they are to something happening. I have certain things that are urgent or potentially emergency level that I am right there, spring into action, because I know what to do. But there are other things, and often, very, very often, when something emergency happens, I don't process it at all. My brain just jumps, I can't even, I'm aware of before, and then I'm aware of after. I can't even tell you about that moment. I don't know what happened. I'm like, oh, wait, she was standing there and now she's lying down. Oh, wait, what? She fell? Her knee popped out of place. What? I just don't know. And having witnessed a lot of people doing similar things, that some people spring to action, some people don't. And I like having both depicted there as opposed to one or the other, because people do react differently. It's not everybody reacting the same in any circumstances. Lisa is looking very, very amused.
I was just thinking about last week.
Oh, yeah. So last week, for anybody watching, what?
I've heard about this.
Oh, yes, I'm guessing you heard. I was assuming you heard about this, but for anybody watching, last week, at where Lisa and I work, there was a machine caught on fire, and they got it out very quickly. We had to go work in a different area for a while so the smoke could clear out, but nothing was damaged, including that machine. But there was a fire in it, and I had my headphones on and my back to it. I didn't know anything was happening. Lisa did, and she just stood there watching, going, "Huh? I wonder what's there. Oh, hey, look, they're getting the fire extinguishers. That's smart." And then our supervisor's going, "Everybody upstairs," and I'm going, "Huh? What? Something happened?" And she's going, "Oh, right, that's probably a good idea."
It was me the whole time. I'm like, oh yeah, oh that's a good idea. Oh, we should do that. That's a good idea. Like, I'm so much help.
Yeah. Oh. Anyway, I do definitely understand Jo forgiving her so quickly after that.
Absolutely. Because
Um,
even though she was so mad, nothing is worth her sister's life or health.
right.
It's the whole thing.
Um,
Never go to bed mad. You
It-
know, like
It still has always, you know how much sleep I would lose sometimes? It still has always struck me as very Deus Ex Machina. A little too convenient that happened like the next day. Like, boom, all better. And like, I do think that Joe needed to forgive Amy. Not only for Amy, but for herself. You just can't hold on to anger and bitterness like that. You only hurt yourself with it. But Amy still really never had much of any real punishment from it. And yeah,
only
her
about chaotic justice. Okay,
what?
you destroyed your sister's book.
You fall in the
I mean, sure, she almost died, but it's not like anybody actually like punished her for it. So unless she decided X led to Y, you know, technically correlation does not equal causation, and the two really weren't related. Other than that fact that
they wouldn't let her go. So this time she had to go, and yeah. So
yeah.
I think it's pragmatic justice.
Yeah.
See,
When I was 6, I cut my hair. And I think my sister sort of volunteered. Oh, she was trying to do a rat's tail in the back like her friend Kelly at school has. And I just kind of went with that and let them believe it, because at 6 I had no concept of how to explain. I found scissors, I needed to cut something. I was not going to cut my books because no way, so I cut my hair. Trying to explain that compulsion of I just need to cut something is much harder for anybody, much less for a 6-year-old to explain that.
Oh God, that's not me. I'll like fold up a bunch of tape and just cut it.
But well, I had actually done it a few different times, but I would snip just like one little bit where nobody could see. And that time I just got a little carried away. But if I found scissors, I mean, the big question is why were there scissors on my bedroom floor by my pile of books? But at any rate, I had made a mess of my hair, and my father was working on evening it out, and the scissors were too dull. And because of that, kind of slipped and jabbed the end of the scissors into my neck, and not enough to cause any damage or anything, enough to scare himself more than me, I think. But you know, it needed a band-aid. It hurt. And that's what I remember. And then we went to Walmart the next day or a couple days later when we were able to have them actually like the hairdresser place in there fix it, because he was too shaken from that to properly get it even or anything. So my mother tells this story. She always says, and I made darn sure she knew this was not a fun trip to Walmart. And I'm like, did you though? I have no memory of this. My memory is of the fact that the scissors stabbed me in the neck and of being embarrassed about my new haircut at school. I have no memory of, and that's what was a bigger deal to me. Whatever this is not a fun trip stuff she said, it did not sink in at all. So thinking from that perspective, I guess it is very possible that, they could do whatever else to Amy, but she's going to go, because I made my sister mad, she didn't make sure I knew that it wasn't safe. It's a dangerous thing to have people mad at me. And that could be what she takes from it, which is at least more than, not taking anything from it other than her sense that she was the virtuous one for apologizing and not being forgiven. So yeah, I guess I'm just now thinking about that and making that connection to my own haircut snafu as a child. And I could see in that regard how that could give her that lesson to a degree without it actually having been a lesson. But again, that was when I was 6, because Amy seems more like she's 6 to 8 years old.
We're almost out of time, but there was one thing I wanted to talk about more was while Amy is recovering in the blankets and they've got her by the fire, Jo has this talk with her mom. And as a people pleaser myself that does have a temper, I liked that she was able to talk through these negative feelings that she didn't feel like she was supposed to have with her mom, and her mom be like, I fight those every day too. And I just really enjoyed that conversation that she had with her mom about how this darkness, this anger, sometimes it slips out, it's hard to control. But like, I just really enjoyed that conversation. I don't know what anybody else got from it, but like,
Yes.
I'm the kind of person that wears my emotions on my sleeve. I'm very, sometimes I am quick tempered, and sometimes I say things that I don't mean to say. And so to like have that in the story where, Jo just let her anger get the best of her for just a moment. And her mom would be like, yep, I struggle with this every day, and your father's my rock. And he's the one that made me want to be better, to watch what I say and why am the way with you, raising you girls. Like, I really enjoyed that conversation with her mom. It was very real adult situation that a lot of people go through. Well, at least I hope a lot of people go through it, not just me.
No, yes. Yeah. That, a lot of people want to, whether in parenting or just in how they relate to other people want to come across as fully put together, as complete. And none of us are. We're not done. We're all still growing. We're not complete. In that sense, in the sense of having, arrived at perfection or whatever. And it's easy to fall into, as a mom, I say, it's easy to fall into with your children that, like, you want to model the best behavior to them. But sometimes, the best behavior you can model to them is letting them know that you have flaws, but that you're working on them. Because seeing somebody as perfect just makes that seem unattainable. Seeing the flaws that they're trying to hide from the world, and you see, oh, they're struggling with this, but they're not just succumbing to it, they're actually struggling, or they're actually working towards something, knowing somebody used to struggle with this, and this is, where they've come to, or anything like that. It's very encouraging for me, and I think it's good for my kids. I'm not always good at modeling it for them, but it's something that I find encouraging when, if I'm talking to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, and we've all struggled with blah blah blah, but they clearly haven't struggled with it the same way I have, is very different from talking to somebody and they're like, I've struggled with this exact thing, and this is where I've come through, and this is where I am now. And I think that that's really what Marmee was doing there, was like giving Jo this look into how she's not perfect, that it's easy to kind of accidentally or on purpose, depending, hide from your children, and to let them see that sometimes speaks more to them than thinking that you are perfect. I love Marmee.
I like how
She's really my
it-
favorite of all of them.
It really showed Jo that like it's always going to be a struggle, because Jo's like, I don't know if I'll ever control it or if it'll overcome me and I'll just become bitter, kind of thing. And so her mom, it kind of shows that it is a daily struggle, that it's something you can master, but it'll always be there.
Right.
And I liked that. They're like, it's a constant effort. And I really think that came across to Jo too. The fact that it is a constant effort, excuse me.
Yep.
So it's a choice, it's a decision. Karen's just over there beating away.
I heard that as like beating at first. I was like, what is she? Oh, beating. Yes, she is. Granulated sugar. I should, since I'm working on getting this up on my website.
Can I just say one of my favorite things about chapter 7? I know we moved way on to 8, but one of my favorite things from 7 was Jo letting Lori win because he gave Beth a compliment. Like, that was cute.
Yes.
Oh, and the races, yeah. Oh,
They're playing chess, and he complimented Beth by saying that he knew a musician who was really good, even if she didn't think so. I was like, I wish I knew somebody like that. He's like, you do.
I love that. Like, even though she doesn't think so, man, I wish I knew somebody like that. They could really help me. You know, funny story. You're as close to her as anybody could be. Oh, I love it. So this is the one I'm working on listing on the website right now, is my sweet apple scrub.
ooh,
With my,
you had that Saturday.
I did. And yeah, my goal was to get, all those things done for the craft fair Saturday, and then get them listed on the website Saturday and Sunday. Several various things, including an entire, actually, I think it was this one. Is it this one or one of the soaps that I had all typed up, and then it had to all refresh and the whole listing disappeared and I had to start it over. But I do have the things from the that I had ready for the craft fair Saturday. I'm working on getting listed on the website, and then throughout this week, possibly into next week, depending on how long some of them take, I'm trying to finish up the other things I was aiming to have for the craft fair that I ran out of time for because of having been down with that migraine a couple weeks ago. And trying to get those all up. So right now I have like my Jane Austen necklaces. I need to get some more of the book earrings done, but I have several of the necklaces done. But then I need to get my various other authors done, so that it's not just Jane Austen, because however much I love and adore Jane Austen, not everybody is such a fan as I am, and they sometimes like other authors or books as well. I do strictly and specifically keep it to authors whose works are in the public domain now, or at least whose works are old enough that if they're not in the public domain, they're like owned by the estate of the author, but not by the author themselves. Basically, things that I'm not really going to get in trouble for having. I don't have an author coming after me. So once I have my own books published, then I'll, make jewelry to go with my stuff. All right. It is 8:01. Next time, 2 weeks from today, we are reading Meg Goes to Vanity Fair and the PC and PO. Meg Goes to Vanity Fair might be the longest chapter we've had yet, but
Oh,
I'm really looking forward to it. It's one of the standout portions of the story to my brain. So we shall do that. Meanwhile,
This is my remake of
very
Riri.
nice.
so cute. I love it.
This is
Lisa,
the
what'd you get done?
original.
Nothing. I played with string and some silver chains.
I almost have this listed on my website.
One listing. Yay!
Hey, something
I think
is something.
Exactly.
I think if I was to remake this, I'd make this loop here in the middle just slightly bigger. It doesn't look like a loop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
gotcha.
agree.